Hey guys, Zangetsu 134 here, bringing you the final Kamen Rider Build episode vlog review. Now, I say that I'm still deciding on whether or not I'm going to look through the online miniseries that were made, whether or not I'm going to watch the movies like Heisei Generations Final and Kamen Rider Build Be the One. Build Be the One's gonna since it's not gonna come out until next year, I'm probably not gonna review it for the channel, just because it's gonna be so long before I won't remember where the movie takes place. I might try to watch Heisei Generations Final, since it at least is kind of important, since it's probably the last Heisei versus film. That of Kamen Rider, whatever and whatever movie war. Because technically it was more or less Build and Exade, but because of all the other Heisei riders that were in it, it's Heisei Generations Final. I am probably going to do one more vlog where I just give my overall thoughts on Kamen Rider Build tomorrow. That'll be kind of an addendum to this. I also know I haven't been putting the vlogs into their proper playlists in ever. I probably will have to do that at some point, but it'll be what it'll be. So yeah. So let's get on to the talking about the last episode. So as we last left the episode, Build and Cross managed to finally defeat Evolt. And Ryuga deciding that because he has Evolt's cells in him to prevent Evolt from coming back again, he would take himself and Evolt into the anomaly that will fuse both the Build Earth and what I'm kind of assuming is the original Kamen Riders universe Earth together. I only say that just because what other Earth could it be? It clearly has to be the main one, since the next series is Zio and Sento and Ryuga show up in that, so it would only make sense that it's integrating the Build alternate universe with the regular universe. Basically, this is Crisis of Infinite Kamen Riders. So, basically, it leads off into that. It opens with, basically with Build, realizing that he can't let Ryuga die. Katsuragi himself even being like, no, it makes total sense that Ryuga should die as well, but of course Sento doesn't believe that, and even Katsuragi's like, no, I know what you're going to try and do, but to be fair, I kind of believe that you can do it just because that's who you are. You're clearly better than me in certain ways. Misora and Sawa even beg him to not go, but Sento just cannot bear to, let anyone else die. They've already lost both Gentoku and Kazami. They cannot lose. They cannot lose any more Kamen Riders, basically. So using the Rabbit Tank full bottle, the full bottle, basically, he turns into Kamen Rider Rabbit, or Kamen Rider Build Rabbit, and goes to fight Evolt. And in doing so, he jumps in the anomaly, which is basically the fused Earths, but it's clearly falling apart because Evolt hasn't been completely absorbed, and even Evolt's like, no, I managed to absorb Ryuga, so now he's back inside me, and in fact, he actually pretends to be Ryuga until Build picks him up, and then he hits him with the power of Evolt, and so he turns into his alien Evolt form one more time. He's like, now the only way to stop all this is to destroy me, so that my energy will be absorbed by the anomaly. And so Sento decides to once more fight, and they do the typical villain trying to defeat the main hero. He does once again the sham Kamen Rider thing that Soichi told him multiple times during the show, when he was particularly when Build got his first upgrade, that of Rabbit Tank Sparkling. And so the two fight. And of course it's pretty rough, mainly because the only thing that really could stand up to Evolt was Genius. Drinking a pib. So Sento gets pretty badly thrashed. And as they're fighting, more and more of, like, Build and Evolt's parts begin to dissolve, basically because, like, I guess partially because Sento was technically Evolt for a time, so, like, he does have Evolt cells, but not enough that he's going to disappear, but it's more like his rider forms are falling apart. Or it could just be argued because the technology of the Build driver was based off the Evolt driver. You know, it's starting to fade as well. And of course, we also get more... My biggest argument that I can't stand in this is the fact that, like, he constantly says, you know, if Sento hadn't created the Build driver, or Katsuragi hadn't created the Build driver in general, the world would be a better place. Even though, like, technically Evo came to this planet on a probe, and inserted himself into Ryuga when he was still in his mother's womb. All that junk that basically, led to, he would have eventually done something horrible regardless of whether or not he, like, Sento created the Build driver. That part's really annoying me, especially because, like, if the Build driver hadn't have been created, then he would have just destroyed the planet much faster. I mean, sure, it might have taken him a longer time to get his power back, but it's just frustrating is more my complaint. There's that argument just because Sento looks like he's going to give up. And just things look dire. Ryuga inside of Evolt manages to freeze him in place. And so Sento starts going through all of his different forms, especially because Ryuga's like, I'm smiling right now because I'm helping people. You can't give up. We've finally gotten to the point where we can finally destroy Evolt once and for all. You need to be Kamen Rider Build. And so, but unfortunately, it only lasts for a few moments as Evolt ejects Ryuga's consciousness from his body and puts it inside the Silver Dragon full bottle, which Sento picks up and once more turns into Rabbit Rabbit, which I don't know why he keeps doing Rabbit Rabbit, like, instead of just turning into Rabbit or to Tang Tang, since that's arguably his strongest form before Genius. Maybe he's hoping on, like, using the blinding speed of Rabbit Rabbit, but I don't know, because Evolt's technically faster. But that's more of a slight nitpick on Sento's fighting style. So again, the battle begins, and as this is happening, more and more of Evolt's upgrades are falling off, like the shoulder cannons and the gloves, and more or less Build slowly runs out of all his forms. And it's more or less just one of those fights in Tokusatsu where we see the main heroes, like, various forms again as they are being defeated, and he has to keep constantly, like, going back to his earlier forms until eventually he's reduced to his base form. And it's a decent fight. And so when that happens, Evolt's reduced to his base alien form, and Sento is eventually reduced to Rabbit Rabbit. And he's like, what can you do? Like, basically Evolt goes, what can you do now that's you're just down to your base form? Like, there's no way, even though I'm slowly losing my power, there's still no way you can defeat me. And so Build's like, well, I'm not going to defeat... he's like, you're all alone. And Sento's like, no, I'm not alone. And he holds up the Silver Dragon full bottle, and in doing so, it actually causes the Rabbit full bottle to turn into the Gold Rabbit full bottle from Kamen Rider Build Be the One. And I think technically it was created due to Evolt, or something like that. I forget exactly how it was created, but and at first you think because they got the Silver Rabbit and Dragon full bottle, oh, it's gonna turn into the Rabbit Dragon can from the movie. No, unfortunately, it's not actually something that kind of interesting, like having the movie form show up, which is frustrating because I love that in Forza when like he's trying to when Gentoro can't use Cosmic, he pulls out the Super Rocket full bottle and becomes the Rocket States, which I love, especially because he remembers Nadeshiko from that film, and I like Nadeshiko. Nadeshiko's probably one of my favorite movie writers, just because I liked her story, and of course she's in my favorite Movie War film, Movie War Megamax, which I adore Movie War Megamax. I think it's really well done. I think of all of the Movie War films, I think it's probably the best one, just because it has a solid premise and all three parts are actually really good. It's not like Movie War Core, the movie that came before it, where the O's portion is just garbage. Which, is because it's written by Toshiki Inoue. And I don't know why. Okay, sorry, this is a bit of a nitpick, but I don't understand why Toei keeps giving Toshiki Inoue writer characters that are not the kind of characters he writes. Because he hates, like, the kind of heroes that O's and Kuga are, and so he writes them terribly. He usually writes them as idiots. And it frustrates me, especially Kuga. I don't know why he got the Kuga manga. Like, okay, all right, let's go back to Build, because this is still technically a good episode, regardless of the fact that I had some problems with this last episode, and they're mostly minor nitpicks, which is most of my problems with Build are minor nitpicks that I can look over because the overall package is really solid. So, Sento puts the Rabbit and Dragon, the silver dragon and gold rabbit full bottles into the full bottle buster, and uses it to damage Evolt enough that he'll be in place for one final attack. And even Evolt says that's still not enough to defeat me. And I actually really like it because he only puts two balls in the full buster, and he goes, it's a just match. And like the whole time, Evolt has basically been saying, you're running out of your powers. Without genius, you're nothing. What match do you possibly have left? And it's Rabbit Dragon, and he puts them into the build driver, and he's like, well, that's the thing. Me and Ryuga aren't just a match. We're a best match. Referencing the fact that the two of them have always been partners this whole time, and their partnership is a best match. And in doing so, it turns him into technically what was a trial match, but I guess due to the fact that like the two of them are together technically, and their powers have created these supercharged full bottles, it creates a Rabbit Dragon best match. And it looks garbage. Mostly because of the fact that it's pure CGI. Like, I don't know why they could, like, especially because this is like the last episode. Like, I get probably because of the fact that the build suit's going to show up in Kamen Rider Zeo, they can't repaint it. But why not just make another, like, I know, like, they probably don't have any budget, but just make a cheap, make a cheap set. Or better yet, just, make spare lens parts for the build armor. Take a random, like, gold or yellow colored suit. And, like, the spare... Because, like, clearly they also had spare dragon parts. Because, like, clearly they didn't just have, like, one set of dragon armored for Cross. They clearly had an extra half for Dragon Lock. At least I believe they did. Then again, we never saw Lock Dragon and Dragon show up in the same shot, so I don't know. But like, I if it were me, I would have just made a Cross Dragon set that was clearly one piece, and have a spare dragon half the left side so that they could use for interchangeable. But basically, because then you could have just gotten a gold rabbit lens, a silver dragon lens, and just spray painted like the dragon and yellow side like gold and silver. Like you could have done this in a cheap way that wasn't crap CGI. It looks so bad. I've seen PS2 CGI that looked better than that. Like, I'm pretty sure Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger's mech fights have better CGI than that. But regardless, it ends with Sento setting up a rabbit tank kick as Evolt tries to use one more black hole break. The two clash, and it's enough to drive Evolt in the ground. But unfortunately, the silver dragon gold rabbit form dissolves, and it's just left to build rabbit tank. And Evolt, desperately yells out that he won't be destroyed, but it's in vain as he's driven into the ground of the new Earth. His energy is finally dispersed, and the two Earths merge, and we get the scene that they've shown in every the shot that they show at the end of the opening, like of every opening that they've made, where like the scientific formulas that always are around build whenever he transforms or does something cool, as they shatter the sky wall as the two Earths merge. And unfortunately, as there's a tornado in between that's causing chaos, we see Bill desperately try to reach out for Ryuga, only for us to see the two Earths merge into one final Earth, more or less implying that like the universes have merged as well. And in doing so, we get a fade to black, and then we open up on this field with a rabbit in it. Get it, rabbit? It's symbolism. And Sento awakens holding the Cross Dragon Ride Watch, which is kind of a tradition now, since I think like Wizard, where basically someone finds a transformation trinket from the previous season, that's going to show up in the next season, or they create the thing from the next season, much like how in Kamen Rider X-Aid, Dan Kuroto, aka Kamen Rider Genom, creates a Kamen Rider Build game, which kind of foreshadows Kamen Rider Build, even though they don't use Gashats in this series. Or how Kamen Rider Drive came across an icon, which led him to meeting Kamen Rider Ghost. I think it was actually I want to say the Drive icon? No, it was actually just the Ore icon, I think. I don't know, it's been forever since I watched Drive. Because I know in the last episode, Shinosuke kind of dies, or like his soul leaves his body for a moment, and Ghost guides him back from the afterlife, keeping the dark spirits of the afterlife from taking him. Which, by the way, that was probably the coolest thing Ghost ever did. Like, Ghost was cooler in, like, everything else leading up to Ghost. Unfortunately. And then we got Tenkuji Takeru in his 99 days. So anyway, Sento wakes up and realizes he's on a new Earth. Him and Katsuragi finally talk about why exactly the plan worked. And it's because they had something that can defy the natural laws of the world and the laws of physics, the Genius Full Bottle, as it was created from a Pandora's Box panel. So basically, the reason Sento's father's plan actually worked was because the fact that the energy from the Genius Full Bottle and the white and black panels plus the Lost Bottles added up to victory, basically. And Katsuragi talks about how basically, due to the fact these two worlds are merging, the memories of both worlds are no more. It's mainly the memories of the world without evil. So no one remembers what Sento and his friends did. His friends don't remember either. So he's basically in a world where no one realizes he's the creator of everything. And in doing so, Katsuragi says, even though it's kind of cruel, you still managed to do so, and you saved the world. And I'm glad. And more or less, he doesn't outright say, but he's like, this was fun, and I have to go. Basically, it was his way of saying that, I'm glad that I got to see that you truly proved me wrong. And I guess he was the last bit of genius energy, because as he dissolves, he's made out of rainbow energy, more or less implying that he was actually why the Genius Full Bottle worked as it did. And in using the power of the Genius Full Bottle, it no longer allowed him to stay as a part of Sento. And so we get a scene where he runs into all his friends, and they don't remember him. The roughest for me being like he meets this world's Ryuga, whose fiance is alive, and the two of them go off to enjoy food, and poor Ryuga like is completely flabbergasted. So like he acts really weird and tells Ryuga that he's glad he's alive. I'm like, yeah, no, don't. Yeah, that's the perfectly normal thing to say, Sento. The other, of course, being when he runs into Misora, and Misora seems to remember him. I think kind of implying that because Vernage actually finally dies when Evil dies. More or less, she lets go. She finally releases Misora from her power, and she fades away. I think kind of implying that the remnants of Vernage's power kind of made her remember Sento. Although it's also implied that, like, thanks to Soichi, the actual Soichi, the good guy Soichi, that they simply thought that he looked like Sato Taro, who in this universe is alive and actually is a semi-successful rock and roll star. But more or less, those are the ones that, in my opinion, were the hardest. The happiest ones for me, though, was we see Kazami with the three crows, and instead of being... And Misora's not an idol in this, but they say, like, she's as pretty as an idol. And Kazami, who's clearly an idol guy, like... I'm not nearly as easily swayed as you two. And then he sees her, and he gets all heart-struck, and proving that some things can't change. We also see Sawa meeting the good guy Gentaku, who actually asks her to dinner for an interview, but like he doesn't do it in a creepy way. It's more implied that it's yes, they're gonna have dinner, but like in more of like a professional, like because a lot of reporters actually do have dinner with their interviewees. I've actually had an interview with someone for a newspaper, and they, we sat down and we just talked. I didn't get actual lunch. I just got a drink, but I know some people will actually sit down and eat when they have an interview. It's kind of just to relax each other and to let the person who's being interviewed be in an environment where they can just be casual, because usually that's when they really talk and are honest and give decent answers. So I think that it's implying that, well, maybe that Gentaku doesn't really have dishonest or things for her. Like in that regard, it's more of just a professional courtesy that they're having dinner together. Whereas in the original opening, when Sawa and Gentaku met each other, he basically said, "You should come to my hotel room and we can get to know each other better." Implying that he wants to take her up to a hotel to have sex with her. Well, we see Utsumi, who's working, and Namba Heavy Industries is not a weapons manufacturer, but just a metal plant, which is hilarious because he has this metal bar and he thinks it's not good enough so to start from scratch. He tries to break the bar, but because he's not a cyborg, he just hurts his knee. It was actually really funny. But yeah, it was really cool because it was nice seeing everyone, actually happy. And it's kind of a throwback to the first episode, but seeing how if the world wasn't changed because of Evolt, which makes me wonder if there's also a Katsuragi, Takumi Katsuragi in this world. We see that the Taito Prime Minister is alive, and he's, instead of being the Prime Minister of Toto, he's the Prime Minister of Japan, with, I think, the Prime Ministers of Hokuto and Saito are members of his cabinet, which is kind of cool. I like that. And, of course, Gentaku is his aide, which I thought was nice. But yeah, and so it seems like Sento's going to be alone in this world, which while saddening, I'm like, nah, don't worry, dude. I'm sure the other Kamen Riders will find you sooner or later, and you guys you'll at least get to know each other in a way. But of course, the series isn't so cruel, and as Sento is sitting there all depressed, he finally runs into Ryuga, who didn't die during the merging. He simply was either knocked out longer than Ryuga, or simply was displaced to another part of Japan. And simply the two of them were just kind of looking for each other. And more or less implying that, he survived simply because of evil cells or something. And in doing so, like, now there's two Ryugas, the Ryuga who wasn't made from evil cells and the Ryuga who is. Which I actually like, even though I do feel that that's probably going to be something sad for Ryuga, especially if he runs into his fiancée, and she's going to see him with his brown hair and wonder why he has brown hair. But at the same time, the two of them do have a chance to live in a better, happier life. And, you know, maybe even though their friends don't remember them, there's a good chance the two of them can make those memories again. Even with them. And if not, they at least have each other. And so the series ends with the two riding off on the build bike. And we can once again get the "your flies open" gag again. And of course, the two end up in a park, and so Sento's like, well, now this is all over. He pulls out a recorder, is like, time to record my heroic exploits. And it's literally him doing the recap from episode 2 with Ryuga. Implying that the whole series actually is taking place after the events of the whole show. That literally what we just watched was Sento telling the story of this world. And in fact ends with Japan being the focused on the planet Earth with the Build logo around it. And at the bottom, Kamen Rider Build is a work of fiction. Kind of implying that Sento slightly made it up. / that because of the fact that those, like, the two worlds that were created are no more, that is all technically fiction. And more or less sets up the ending so that we can explain why Sento and Ryuga are meeting Kamen Rider Zio. And yeah, so in summary, I think it was a pretty good finale. My only real complaint is I think that this should have been 2 episodes. The one being the final episode where we see the final all-out brawl between Evil and Build, and just have it end with, like, the worlds merging. With the last episode being just a wrap-up episode. Maybe even having, like, the remnants of Evil try to come back. That because Ryuga lived, some of the Evil's remnants come out, and, like, he tries one more time as, like, Evil Dragon. But, like, the two of them manage to do so anyways. Like, and maybe even have it that Ryuga can transform, and, like, Build's having a hard time because he only has, like, Rabbit Tank and maybe Rabbit Tank Sparkling. And then have Ryuga use the Cross Dragon Ride Watch to become Kamen Rider Cross Dragon, and the two of them work together to defeat Evil, just to show how the two are the ultimate best match better, or something. But otherwise, I think it was a good episode. Like I said, I have small nitpicks. The worst being that awful CGI shot of Silver Dragon or Gold Rabbit and Silver Dragon, and slight nitpicks of stuff. But otherwise, I think it was a good final episode. It wraps up things pretty nicely. And while I feel it's slightly rushed, I've seen way worse endings. Granted, I have seen better endings, like the ending to Double and the ending to Kuga, for instance. But overall, I think it was a solid ending to a solid series. I'll get more into my thoughts of the series in the whole tomorrow when I do my final thoughts. But in summary, I think it was a good ending. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. I think I talked long enough about the episode. In general, I think it was good. It was a solid final episode. Stay tuned for my final thoughts where I give an overview. And of course, stay tuned for my next episode of My Hero Academia, since we've got another one coming up. And of course, stay tuned, even if you don't want to watch my final thoughts, for us to introduce the new king, Kamen Rider Zio. Until then, guys, Zangetsu 134, signing off.